Okay, so in this mutation log, I want to talk about NASA. So, what if NASA actually created a sector for fashion designers? So, what I want to actually talk about in this video is something that actually I feel like should be an actual thing, and I'm not sure if they actually have a section for fashion designers, especially if we're trying to think about getting to another planet. Granted, if they get to another planet, who's going to design clothes for them? That's where I want to get at in this video. So basically, that's my main question. What if NASA hired a fashion designer? And what would happen if NASA stopped thinking of a spacesuit as equipment and started thinking of it as fashion? That's where I want to get at in this video. And it's really interesting because it's just like I want to envision like a world. If NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, if they can get to Mars, if they can get to another planet in that regard, how can fashion be implemented in that for the Mars for like the astronauts to actually be, wearing clothes that are functional in like the bases that they're in? Like, how would that look like? And what would that look like is what I want to get at. And that's my main question of where I want to get at. Okay. So basically the core idea is that like traditional spacesuits are designed primarily for survival and function. But the question becomes what happens when you add fashion's understanding to the overall like outfit itself, such as human silhouette, proportion, movement, material selection, identity, visual storytelling, and customization. So how would an actual outfit for the Mars base, for example, let's just say Mars, so we can just break it out to one planet. Okay, so when you get to Mars, what are the astronauts going to wear? They probably already have spacesuits and everything like that, and like like the uniforms. But how can that be redesigned in a way that actually is suited and actually matches the aesthetic of the planet? Once you actually colonize the planet in that regard, how would fashion then change from that? Who's going to design the clothes for that? How would the designers actually, how would the, so once you get to Mars and actually colonize the planet, how is the fashion going to change from that? Who's going to be designing the clothes? Where are you going to get the fashion, like the fabrications, like the resources in order to make new clothes for the planet? Because like as you're adapting to the planet, how is that going to actually happen? And also, like for example, schools focus on STEM, but not about fashion. And if the world is actually changing and elevating and innovating, sorry, I'm stuttering. So if the world is actually changing and being more innovative and elevating the ways of human, how is it? Who's going to be doing the repairs? If the STEM program is only focused on like mathematics, science, and like engineering. But from that example, sorry, I'm stuttering and I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say, and like I know what I'm trying to say. Who's going to be repairing the clothes? Who's going to be designing the clothes? Who's going to be like actually producing more clothes for the astronauts to wear? So this is more of like a hypothetical kind of question for a designer. So like if I were designing the next generation of spacewear, I wouldn't start with the question, how do we make an astronaut suit? I'd ask, what does the human body become when technology becomes part of how it moves through another world? Because like if you go on another world, it's obviously going to be different. So I don't want to give a definite answer on this. I want to give like a hypothesis and just introducing just an idea out there. So what if NASA hired a fashion designer? Would we just get better looking spacesuits? That's not the answer that I was going with. But, or would we completely rethink what a human being would wear when they become an explorer, is what I want to get at. So, with that being said, Expo out.